Hello and welcome to Happy Cells and Souls. My name is Julie Powers. I'm a licensed Zumba instructor and I'm a business partner with the Juice Plus company. My missions in life are to help people live their life joyfully, to know that life is better when they're dancing through it, and also to inspire healthy living around the world. But my expanded mission is to create better health at the cellular level and more joy at the cellular level. And we only get one body while we're here, so we have to take care of it. And while we're here, we should probably be spreading a lot of light and love in the world. And that's what these conversations are about. I am just so honored to share some of the people that I know in my life so that they can share their stories with you. And my theory is that we can learn something from everyone. It doesn't matter if we believe the same things that they believe about politics, religion, culture, it doesn't matter. Everybody has a story to share and we can learn something. But today's story is something very close to my heart because this is Dr. Thomas LaMartina, and I'm going to call him Tom. I've known him a long time, and my father was a dentist for my entire life. And so dental health is very important to me. And so because Tom, you are a dentist, I love that you get to save people's smiles. You protect their smiles, you help them keep their teeth for a lifetime. And I would just love to know, first of all, why dentistry?
Well, thank you for having me on your show here. I really looked into a lot of different things back when I was a young man, and dentistry just ended up fitting pretty good because I've always liked doing things with my hands and fixing things and making things. It was always kind of a thing, even from childhood. One of my favorite classes in high school was always shop classes. I always liked to build stuff. And when I got out of college, or when I was in college, I looked into a few things. One of them was being a park ranger. And I actually liked hiking and doing stuff outside. So my wife and I, my girlfriend at the time, we went out to Arizona and spent the summer there and realized that this probably wasn't what I wanted to do for a career. I liked it, but it wasn't something that I wanted to spend the rest of my life doing. So we came back and went to actually my old dentist as a childhood, in my childhood, and talked to him a little bit about it. And he kind of inspired me to look into it. And so that's really what happened. And then I found myself pretty far along in my biology degree and I needed to make a decision. And I applied to dental school and I got in.
Which dental school did you go to?
University of Missouri in Kansas City.
Okay.
So yeah, so I ended up going away to school to dental school, and before I knew it, I was a dentist, and it was pretty awesome.
You know, something that a lot of people don't realize is the amount of artistry that is necessary for dentistry and really having that eye. Is that something that came naturally to you, or was it something that you had to learn in your classes?
I would say a little bit of both. I mean, I think I've always kind of had a little bit of me that liked art a lot. I took a lot of photography classes and I did stuff like that in college as well. And so I always liked that kind of thing. So when it came time for dental school and we learned about how to sculpt little teeth out of wax and how to photograph those teeth and do things like that, it came pretty naturally to me. I never really struggled with any of that stuff.
Right.
My struggles was more like, I'm taking 22 and a half credit hours in a semester. It was like ridiculous.
Right.
So,
Right.
but like all the hands-on stuff, yeah, I really liked that. That was fun. And that's really what's fun today is like, even all these years later, I can't imagine being a doctor in a medical practice and never get to put my hands on something where I'm just talking with people and then figuring out the little mystery that they have to figure out to give them the correct medications. I wouldn't like that. I like getting in and like doing something. And so really dentistry was a perfect fit.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. And making the perfect fit is a big part of dentistry because you want to make sure that the teeth fit really well whenever you're doing fillings and crowns and things like that. And I know most people have this like extreme fear of dentists or a dislike of dentists. And of course, that has not been an issue for me because, as I said, my dad was a dentist for my entire life. until he was no longer able to practice due to a health issue. And then voila, here we are, and you are my dentist. And so, I think that having the trust in your dentist is really important, because knowing that they know what they're doing, and that oral health is so important. So can you tell us a little bit about why oral health is such a vital piece of the puzzle in overall health?
Well, because it is part of your body. It's a little place that it does a lot of things. It communicates with other people. It helps you with the digestion of your food if you're chewing properly. It's a place that can have problems. Things can break. Things can get infected. That affects your entire body. It can affect your heart, your cardiovascular system. It can do a lot of things. Oftentimes in your mouth, we can find things that clue us into other parts of your body that something also is wrong. Periodontal disease, gum disease. Most of those patients are either smokers or people with diabetes. Those are two like main risk factors. So like if someone comes in and they're diabetic, I'm checking their gums really good because I want to make sure I know what's going on in there. So yeah, I mean there's just a myriad of different connections between your general health and your oral health. It's part of your health. So
Right. I know there have been a lot of research studies on, oral health and infections in the mouth and the correlation between heart disease, like you mentioned. Do you see that, like, whenever you're looking in someone's mouth? I know that my dad used to be able to tell if someone needed to go in for a biopsy for tongue cancer or, throat cancer and things like that, because people don't generally go around looking in other people's mouths. You need,
yeah,
need somebody to be able to spot what looks normal and what doesn't.
absolutely. Your dentist is really the one who's really looking underneath your tongue, and that's where we're looking for oral cancers. And you go to your physician, and they look in your mouth, but not with lights and with such magnification like we would. And that's just the way way medicine is practiced. The dentist is really looking the closest underneath your tongue in those problem areas. Typically, you see your physician, they're just going to put your tongue down and look back to your throat. They kind of pass over everything.
Right.
So really, having a good dentist that twice a year at least you're going in and having something looked at and just making sure you're in good health is just vital, as far as I'm concerned.
Sure. And I know dentistry has changed drastically. Well, what year did you graduate from dental school?
I graduated in '95.
Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember exactly when that was, but I
Yeah,
worked
a long time ago.
Yeah, you were a boy. You were a boy when you first came here to Farmington, and I remember meeting you and Candy, and then your family started growing, and I'm sure that you've seen these drastic changes in dentistry, because everything's changed with a lot of OSHA rules and with the CDC rules,
Oh yeah.
things like that. I mean, in the last 2 years has been the most drastic changes, I know, in terms of one-on-one contact with patients. But over the years, what have you seen in either changes for the better, changes that maybe have not been the best thing for the dental field in terms of patient care? Or is there such a thing, like maybe it's all for the best, and I don't know what I'm talking about. So what have you seen that has changed so drastically?
Well, on the good side, the technology has changed just unbelievably.
Right, with all
and
the
really,
digital x-rays and screenings and things like that.
yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. The digital revolution that happens, across all industries also happened in dentistry. And the old days of taking the full impression for everything with the mouth full of stuff, almost completely gone. There are a few areas where you still have to do that, but almost completely gone.
So wait,
And
you don't have to use the little squishy rubber things with the pink alginate and do this sort of thing?
not very often. It's just like a camera. We just take like a little 1,000 pictures of your teeth, and then the computer kind of puts it all together into a 3D model.
Really, that's amazing.
So yeah, it's really, that's the biggest change. But really every facet of dentistry has changed, like how they treat gum disease today. Now there are lasers that are used that can help rebuild bone. There's the filling materials that we use, those have changed. How we bond them to your teeth has changed. The crowns themselves, the materials that are used to make crowns, completely different. You know, not too long ago, they were still getting gold crowns. Well, the price of gold is through the roof. It's not easy to work with. And so now there's digital technologies that can just basically grind that out of a little piece of porcelain, and we can glue it right on your tooth the same day.
Wow.
So it's just an unbelievable amount of change that's happened. And as
Wow.
far as the disinfection processes and such with the last couple of years, that was another big change, you know. And a couple of years ago, we were all worried about, you know, how we're going to be able to function in this environment, but you know, we found ways to make it happen. And
Right.
really a lot of those changes aren't going to go away, you know. We'll continue using the technology that's appropriate to keep the office safe.
Right, right. And I think that that's important for people to understand that, you know, going into a dental office, you need to make sure that the place you're going, that you feel like they are up to speed on the best
For sure.
practices, and what your comfort level is for, you know, your personal safety, and knowing that what is being done is going to make you feel like this is the place to be, because not every dentist uses the same practices. And you know, you're still in a private practice. A lot of dentists have gone to like the multi-dental clinic kind of business model. And what I think is so great about you being a family dentist, as a, you know, a primary owned, you know, business, you get to make all the decisions about your practice. And I know that there's a lot of stress that goes along with that. I've seen that over the years as well. And I think that being able to put your personality into your place of business also makes it more special, because people know you, they know your staff. It's not just, I'm going to go in, open my mouth, get my mouth checked and cleaned, and then I'm heading out. You know, there's a connection. I'm sure that you've had a lot of really interesting stories throughout the years. If you want to tell us a little bit about, you know, when you started out versus where you are now, and how things are moving along with, you know, your practice, and just things that people might want to know about how you got started and everything.
Sure. So as I said, I graduated from UMKC, Kansas City, in '95. And then I did a general practice residency at Washington University and Jewish Hospital at the time. That's kind of an optional thing for dentists. Most of them don't do that. So I did that for a year. And then after that was over with, I ended up working for your dad for a year. And I liked Farmington and I liked your dad, but I knew I wanted to do my own thing. And then I was pretty much going to leave. And then your dad said to me, well, why are you leaving? And I'm like, well, I don't want to have be in this practice. I want to have my own practice, you know? And he's like, well, that's fine. Just go down the street. I'll bring you all your charts over. And so really your dad, like, it was unbelievable. He just, like, he wasn't threatened or anything like that. A lot of businesses would be. And he did nothing but really support me. And I always appreciated that. And so that's what I did. I went, well, okay, I'll go down the street. And I opened up, and he'd come over and check on me every once in a while. And really, it was just great after that. You know, I really never had a problem. And I like being my own owner of the practice, because, you know, at the end of the day, I'm the person who has the license. Everything is my fault. So I want to be the one making the decisions on what's going to be my fault, you know?
Right.
So I like that autonomy. And so that is really, it's more important to me really than anything. I don't have to have the biggest office in town. I don't have to make the most money and do the most things or whatever. I really just want to be in charge of my own destiny. And that's kind of where I went with all of it. And it's been that way ever since. And so it's been great. I would not be comfortable working in a corporate practice. That's not something that I want to do. Although this industry is going that route.
Mhm.
The question is what the final numbers will be. Will it be all the practices? Will it be some of the practices? We don't really know.
Right.
But I know I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to I want to stick where I'm at. And that way, when I have people come in and I want to talk with them, I like them, they like me, I can just have whatever relationship I want to have with this patient. I don't want anybody standing over me saying like, we got to get on to the next guy.
Right.
And I think that's kind of how the corporate stuff works. And so I really just like making it what I want to make it. And that's how I'm going to do it.
I think that's great. And you do a great job of that.
Thanks.
When is the first time that a child should be brought to the dentist, in your opinion? What is the first time that you should see a child?
They say that when a child has a tooth, then they should go in and see somebody. But realistically, by 3 years old, they should be coming into the dentist.
Right.
I've always had people bring them in by 3. Now, if there was something that was wrong, maybe I can't do anything for the 3-year-old, but at least I'll get you to the place that can.
Right.
And if they want to come before that, I have no problem with that. A lot of times I'll say, well, tell you what, when mom has an appointment, why don't you bring the baby with you? And then just bring somebody with you that can watch the baby, and I'll be happy to take a look at them and just
Right.
see where we're at, And that's kind of how I've always approached it.
Well, I know that, when my dad was practicing, that he saw a lot of kids that had extreme tooth decay at a very young age because they had a lot of sugary drinks and fruit juices in their bottles. And because they were sucking on that nonstop, and then they went right to a sippy cup, and then they were continuing with all of that sugar. Is that something that you continue to see in your practice?
For sure. Yeah, that's still around. We're kind of in a funny time right now because I think it's 4 or 5 years ago, Farmington took all the fluoride out of the water in the city of Farmington. So really, I don't think any of us really know where this is going to go. I think hygiene is a lot better today than it was probably 40 years ago. But we're all kind of like wondering, are we going to see a ton more decay or not? So my practice in itself has matured a lot, where it's funny, if you see an older dentist and you go to their practice, you see a lot of older people, and it's because people come to a dentist and they like them and then they stay with them unless they move away. And
Right.
so I'm no different. I've been in practice now in Farmington since 97 or 96. I worked for your dad. And my practice kind of looks like that. I have a lot of people in their 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s. I still see a lot of little kids, but not nearly as many as I did 20 years ago.
Right.
So
Right.
it's really kind of
That was your
interesting.
age group. Now you have grown
Right.
people, so yeah, that makes
Exactly.
that makes
Yeah.
sense.
It's funny because like that's a pattern I would never have noticed until I gotten older.
Right.
So,
Right. You're not that old.
yeah.
So we just have like 2 minutes left, and I'm just wondering if you have a really great story to share, maybe about a particularly amazing smile that you were able to save, and or something about just, I don't know, something that you might remember that was really like one of those reasons that you go, this is why I became a dentist.
Yeah. Well, no in particular patient. There's been a lot of different patients where we've done stuff like that, but I spent a lot of time doing continuing education since dental school. And this summer, I will have my mastership in the Academy of General Dentistry, which just so happens to be something your dad has as well.
Mhm.
And there's not a ton of dentists that have that. But in that pursuit of continuing education, I've learned a lot about what makes a great smile and what to do for people. Like back in the old days, I would have just thought, well, I could just do it by myself in my office for this certain patient. But what I've learned is that you can have just amazing outcomes when you get together as a dental team. So oftentimes I'll take very complicated cases, and then I will team up with other types of dentists, and then we will treat these people as a team and then have an amazing result at the end. And that is called interdisciplinary dentistry.
Mhm.
And that has been just amazing because we've seen stuff that we've done. And there's stuff, some of my stuff's on my website or on Facebook before and after. And that has been eye-opening. It's been really just great because you could have a good outcome just by fixing teeth.
Right.
But boy, if you straighten the teeth first, or alter the position of the tooth, or maybe you recruit a surgeon who can build some bone up and then place an implant in a certain place and in a certain way, and then you put a tooth on it, it's really cool how
It's
it
a
all
whole
turns
different
out.
story, right? So
Yeah,
Julie, I
yeah.
just, I want to thank you for being part of the group out there that continues to help people smile, because smile is, the universal language of love and happiness and connection. And if we don't have
Yeah.
smiles, then it's really hard to go through life. And so I know people that were very very concerned about ever smiling because they didn't feel right. They didn't feel comfortable with their smile. And once they got their dental work taken care of, then they're able to glow and light up the world. And so thank you for adding more light and love and glow to the world through all those smiles. And I'll be sure to include all of your contact information in the text for this video. Thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you for having me.